Hello, race fans. Welcome to another episode of Short Track Guys Podcast, brought to you by ShortTrackExclusives.com. I'm your host, Thomas Faddis, alongside two other short track guys in the studio, as always. Jim Pokrant, driver of the 07 Can'tQuitFishing.com sportsman here locally at Five Flag Speedway, and 2021 Sportsman Champion, and Ted Baber Video Productions, also locally in the Southeast and short tracks, especially Five Flag Speedway. Welcome, guys.
Greetings.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, we've got a special guest is on with us right now. We're gonna bring him in just shortly. We've got some things to go over with this weekend.
A little bit of news.
Yeah. This weekend at Five Flag Speedway here Friday night, and then we're gonna go to Mobile on Saturday. But we wanna touch on a little bit of a sportsman update here coming up for this Friday night at Five Flags, Jim.
Well, we got her, was going to put a new clutch in, but of course Speedway sent me the wrong clutch. So I got the flywheel resurfaced and put the old clutch back in, and we fixed the shifter we had a problem with. So thanks to Ben Cranford for the use of his lift in his shop.
Yes.
And tonight when I get home, I got to check the tow and just make sure we get everything ready because I can't get off early from work, so I'm going to have to roll the car off, and hopefully Ben and them will have my tires ready. We'll bolt them on because we're group qualifying this week.
God.
So I don't need practice. I just need group qualifying, so we should be pretty good. I got a new hood finally. I finally replaced my beat-up old... I've had that hood forever. We made it out of a roof of a semi. It's all aluminum. It looks good, but it's so beat up. It's got so many holes drilled in it from different hood pin locations. It's hilarious. So thank Robert Balcom for helping me out with a hood. So we got that squared away, and we'll be ready to rock. I think we got a shot at it. I mean, we were only a couple of hundredths off what the winner was last week, so... Yeah. I think we got a good shot, so hopefully when that thing comes off the trailer and the loose nut behind the wheel does his job, we might be all right.
Well, that hood has a little bit of experience and some memories, good, bad, and indifferent.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That hood's been bent up so many times. It's funny because I think I'm going to take it over to my new house and I'm going to put it in the ceiling in my man cave and just screw it to the ceiling and just have it in there. I think that'd just be super cool to have hanging in there. What's that? It's my hood. Along with my Bubba Pollard autographed roof. It's got to go in there with my trophies, which I have a bunch of those too.
Okay, so. We got a hood, we got a roof, we got a fender. We got to get rear quarter panels.
Yeah, I got a Pollard Motorsports quarter panel I can get from Ben, and it's sitting over there. You know, I mean, hey, we got all that. But yeah, we're gonna have some fun, man. And we there's a slight chance we might go to Mobile Saturday night, but it all depends on if Ben Cranford wants to buy a couple tires. Because I'm not going over there with no tires, and they run a different tire, and it's a $50 rental of the transponder. Yeah. So
that's different.
Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous if you ask me, but you get your money back. I didn't know that. It's a $50 rental fee, and then at the end of the night when you turn your transponder, you get your $50 back. I said, well, why don't you just hold my driver's license? Why do I have to give you $50? But that's Gina. I don't. Well, and you're racing for $300, and that won't even cover the two tires you have to buy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of not worth to go over. But if Ben wants to go and Ben's willing to load my car up and take it over there, I'll go race.
Well, you know what they say. If you want to make $1 million in racing, start with 10.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You know, and this weekend happens to be, you know, a Friday night, Saturday night locally. But then this whole weekend, Memorial Day weekend week, we're actually in.
Wow.
Friday, Saturday here, Five Flag Speedway, and then Mobile International, and then Sunday we've got the big three, which is one of my favorite race weekends of the year.
Yep.
With the race at Monaco in the F1, Indy 500, and Coke 600. So this weekend is going to be huge for racing.
Better have a lot of caffeine on hand.
Yeah, I just hope I hope there's some good shows, man. I really hope that even NASCAR puts on a good show. Some of their all-star race was a joke. I mean, how do you throw a caution 50 feet from the start-finish line with a car that brushes the wall? And I'm going to say this real quick. I was a big Carl Edwards fan, and he got screwed out of a championship because NASCAR threw a debris caution and there was no debris, and then him and Joey Logano wrecked. So I got nothing for them anymore. Man. But anyway, I digress.
It happens occasionally.
Yeah, it does.
I've been to Indy twice. That is the world's largest party.
Oh, yeah, I've heard the snake pit. You got to go to the snake pit. That's what they were talking about.
And go find a break. Turn 1 because that's where all the bikers are.
Oh, gotcha.
Well, got a quick rundown, going through this weekend. From last weekend we talked about on the last episode with the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour at Franklin County Speedway. We had a Pro Late Model race and a Cars Tour late model stock race. And we talked a lot of these guys, Ryan Moore, Luke Fenhouse from the ARCA Midwest Tour up there in Slinger and Madison, Wisconsin, Cale Gale, which is pretty much a local guy.
Yeah, he's from Mobile.
That we know, we're very familiar with. Austin McDonald and William helped me.
Sololich.
Yeah, there you go. Finished fifth at the Pro Late Model race there in Franklin County, and it's actually a really, really good race. But Ryan Moore, Luke Fenhouse, and Cale Gale really put on a show. The Cars Tour Late Model stock, Carson Quapple, which we all know about, with Junior Motorsports, took Josh Berry's spot in that series. Josh Berry moved on to the Xfinity full-time with Junior Motorsports, and Carson Quapple, the son of the Quapples that were in the Cup Series and trucks and everything.
Travis,
yes.
Travis Quapple.
Yeah, that's
his
it.
daddy.
Kyle Dudley, Jacob Hefner, Zach Miracle, and Mason Diaz around the top five with that big race. And, I mean, that was just a recap of some of the big races that we had this past weekend we mentioned in the last episode.
Congratulations, good racing, I'll tell you. But the Cars Tour they went away from super lates and went to pro lates and the stock late model stocks. So ought to be pretty interesting to watch those guys because the pro late models are under horsepowered, but they put on a pretty good show. I mean, like at Five Flags, this last pro late model race we had was a dadgum good race.
Great.
So I mean, the pros are stepping up. I mean, the supers, you got tons of horsepower, so, I love to watch those guys too. But
well, we can catch up a little bit, some other news after this, but I want to bring this up and kind of bring the guest on with the phone with us.
Let's do it.
He's in our studio remotely by phone. His name is Jerry DeLuca. He's the executive producer of Motorcycle Wars. And we were privileged enough to talk to him a week ago to find out a little bit more about what he's got going on and what this is all about. And we were just as curious as anybody else would be, and that's why he's here. And Jerry, thanks so much for arranging this with us, and welcome to our show.
Thomas, I can't thank you guys enough. It's an absolute honor to be part of your podcast. When I read up on it, I was super intrigued. The critical words for me is short track, and we'll explain why those are. But Ted, pleasure to meet you, and Jim, of course, your racing stories are awesome. And I understand that you do impressions. Maybe at the end of the show you can give us a couple of impressions. But my heart belongs to where Ted lives, and it's pretty well in the video production.
Yep.
But I have to tell you, it's all about racing for me, and the stories about the people in all kinds of racing, mostly, Thomas. But I'm up here in Canada. The beer's great, and I think we got the best beer in North America, quite honestly, but don't tell anyone that.
We won't mention that.
Yeah, maybe we can work out a deal later.
Soon.
Yeah.
Well, how did you get interested in this sort of short track realm? I know that we're getting into the Motorcycle Wars, which is a two-wheel situation. It may not be oval, it may not be flat track, it may not be dirt, it may be a road course on a shorter circuit. But what drove you to get to this point? And take us through that Motorcycle Wars journey.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thanks for asking. I love talking about this. It goes way back to when I was maybe 10 years old when I first started falling in love with anything that had a motor, two-stroke in particular, but that's my motocross days. But I just fell in love with the idea of racing and purpose-built machines. And what I mean by that is you take any kind of four wheels and you put a big motor in it, or two wheels even, you put a racing motor in it, and it's only meant for one thing: to have fun, go fast, and just race. It's not really about anything more than that. It's just about fun. And over the years, I got closer to bikes. I built many. I actually built one not too long ago from scratch. And that just led me to meeting more people, and racing people are the best people on the planet, man. Motorcycle people are great, but I don't know if you knew this, Thomas, Ted, and Jim, but I was actually a second mechanic for about a year and a half. I did 17 races in the IRL League. I didn't mention that last time.
Wow.
Yikes.
Cool.
Yeah, I traveled the states from Florida to Arizona. It was a great experience. I met a lot of people doing that. We were a Canadian race car team, and we were supporting the big boys, the RRL and Champ Car, the big cars. We were the Infinity Pro Series, it was called back then. Not sure what it's called now, but I think maybe Indy Light it's called now. And so each weekend we raced around, and we were supporting even the NASCAR trucks. I know you said something funny, Jim, a little earlier about NASCAR, but it's all racing to me, and it was a lot of fun. It's loud, and Texas for me was the most interesting track to watch. In any case, I met TV people during this whole time and sponsorship people, and I have a crazy imagination, and I love racing, and I love video content, producing it. So without boring you too much, one thing led to another, and I came up with this idea for capturing the stories in a racing environment. But it's very difficult. You guys have been to many races, of course. Most often the races are controlled by race operations, and there's a large grid, and you've got a lot of safety events going on. So it's hard for someone who's interested in capturing stories to have enough focus to interview people, to say the least.
Yeah, access can be very limited sometimes. That is a problem.
Right. So when Jim's racing, he's focused on his racing. He doesn't really want to stop for a camera. But my idea was if you build an event, perhaps something that's a little bit easier to film and controlled by, it doesn't go live. Racing doesn't start until the director's ready. So we have to build an event that we're kind of in control of without taking the element of what racing is about. The essence of racing has to exist. So I had a few riders, and incidentally, this is with two-wheeled sport, because with four-wheel, believe it or not, it's a little bit more of a challenge. Mm-hmm. So I said, let's go to two wheels and see if it makes it a bit easier, because ultimately I want to capture the real people, the real stories, and make it unscripted, not a reality TV show. No. I want it to be a real racing event with all the high stakes that are there, but at the same time have the freedom to capture Jim's ideas or any other racer's ideas.
Or you think maybe an event like a Isle of Man, or like a series where you have multiple races in what your competition's all about? Yeah,
so I think anything could apply as long as the event has some control with the cameras and the directors. The track has to be shorter. Only simply because it makes it a lot easier to move around on the theater, right? As opposed to when it's really large, you have a lot more ground to cover. So the concept of Motorcycle Wars is get an event with the same stakes, so you have to have the riders design the race. I'm not a racer. I love racing. I've been around it ever since I was a young lad. I remember my first Formula One race in 1972 in Mosport. Used to be called Mosport. Now it's the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Mm-hmm. And I was intrigued by that, and it has stuck with me ever since, and I love it so much. I don't race, but my passion's still there, so I figured, why not produce some really good video content, create a franchise series, and maybe I can spread the word and get more people interested in racing, all forms of racing. This doesn't have to be just motorcycles, but right now it is, because it's easier and more cost effective for me, because we're at the ground level here, right? We've produced one event and we captured it. It worked well. lots of learning to happen, right? You got to start somewhere.
Always.
So, yeah, I would even think of, we talked last week about possibly even coming down to Pensacola, Florida, right? Anything's possible as long as we have some time to plan it. And with these phone calls and meetings online, we could certainly arrange something that would be a lot of fun, man.
Well, the thing about motorcycles is you have a lot of amateurs. There's a lot of guys that ride. We have professionals here in Pensacola that ride, and not only the sport bikes or the racing bikes also. And the cool thing, I like your concept about motorcycles is you can walk right up to the guy as he's sitting on the line and talk to him. You don't have you're not strapped inside a car with a thing. He's got a helmet on, but you could literally walk up to him moments before he takes off and say, "Hey, what do you think? How you feel? Are you ready?" You know, and you know what I mean?
You got the vision. Yeah, you got the vision. That's exactly the point. Get people really intimately close. You get the opportunity. Mm-hmm. Once you got, the few words coming out of the rider's helmet, then you walk off, and then you hand over control to race operations, and then, you set up cameras, you set up what you want. You've had enough practice to set up the cameras. Let the racers do what they do. It's about their passion.
Right.
And we want to capture that. Right.
So what is it more about this amateurs and the elimination series? What your idea of that competition would be like with the professionals on that side, and at the end, it being an amateur against a pro? Is that are we talking? I'm going to go into a scenario of a series, whether it be super late models or a pro late model, or even on the upper series. How does the amateur through that process finally get to the end with the professional, and what is the prize at the end?
Okay, so great question, man. I mean, that's a critical question. That's what the racing is all about. So what we do is we invite riders, right? Everyone who's racing has to be licensed. They've got to have some experience being on a track. Otherwise, we'd have a chaos thing. We don't want that. We don't want people getting hurt. Mm. So you have a series of amateurs licensed. They have some experience riding and racing, right? So they've gone through their weekends of competition, but maybe just not as many as the pros. So let's say we've got a grid of 32 riders. A normal race, you'd have 20 riders on the roster, and it's a mix of amateurs. You don't have the pros racing with these fellas. So you get a series of amateurs racing, maybe the grid's 20 bikes big, and you race for 15, maybe 21 laps, something like that. That's not what we do. We do head-to-head racing. So you've got about 32 riders. 16 of them are amateurs, 16 are pros. And these are designations from the current either local or regional racing or even national racing that they run, right? So of the 16 amateurs, they will compete amongst themselves, and you will find one champion amateur. The pros, same idea. You have 16 pros. Now, once again, when I say pros, these are the guys who have got a little bit more money, perhaps, have maybe 10 years worth of racing regional experience. The grassroots, these are all grassroots racers, and some possible national series racers. So, so the 16 pros will go against each other, and you find one pro champion. So now, by the end of the series, which could be about eight episodes long, you'll have an opportunity where the champion amateur and the champion pro will negotiate some form of handicap for the amateur, because you got to have the big gamble. Doesn't everyone want to see the underdog take on the pro?
Always.
The last race is something of some fun for the audience, that's for sure, because it's just a real human interest story now, right? You got an amateur versus a pro. Let's give the amateur some kind of a handicap that he's ahead of the pro, and then you see what happens. Does the negotiation work with the pro? Does the negotiation work better for the amateur? So you've got all these questions. It would make for an interesting final race. something that maybe the amateur can prove himself or herself.
Right.
Right. How much of this is in the forward progress, and how much of it do you have in place, and how soon can we expect first event or witnessing it for the first time?
I'm crossing my fingers. I've got a team working on it. There's about 6 of us hard at work doing this. Of course, I created it. I'm kind of leading it, but I can't do everything. And sales is not my thing. So I've got a really good team getting some brand sponsors, brand partners in there. And we're hoping to shoot something in September. Crossing my fingers and my toes. I mean, anything can happen. Things are looking good. We're just about landing the venue, which is one of the more important aspects of it.
Right.
We've got to start playing the production. We've got the film crew production. That's set to go. Race operations, that's a separate entity to pull off this event, and that's set to go. Venue, we've got a few to pick. But the first main event, we've done a few, but none of them has been as large as what we're about to do. And it'll be interesting to have 32 riders on the what I like to call the theater, the racing theater. This will be the first time we have 32 riders. So like I was saying, it's a one-on-one, head-to-head. It's like drag racing. I like to describe it this way, guys. It's like drag racing, but you've got corner-for-corner battles. You got 3 laps, not 21 laps. So it's almost like if you're watching any kind of racing, the best racing is always the last few laps, isn't it? Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah.
And the strategies these guys have to use to only set up for a 3-lap race is interesting too. I know some guys preheat their fork oil, and of course they're heating up their tires like crazy.
Tire warmers.
It's the last 3 laps. What's your bike like, and what's your machine doing in the last 3 laps of a normal race, right?
Yeah, everything's heated up and it's ready to rock, and it's going to get exciting in especially the last lap of 3. You're really going to be pushing the limits.
Yeah, and going head to head.
Yeah.
So you're taking. I love this combination of short track, albeit 2 wheels, but at short track, maybe first and second going at it head to head, and then it's a process of elimination through amateurs and pros. They're doing the same thing, right? Right.
Yeah. So it's an elimination process, much like drag racing. So you're going through an elimination process for the amateurs, and same thing for the pros. And the grid size 32 is the biggest we've done, but I could imagine you can go much bigger than that. And it's interesting this is the cool part. You've got constant racing for an audience. Right. So when a race starts, you've got 20 laps, let's say. Audience might start to lose their interest unless they're focused on specific drivers. In this circumstance, the entire audience is focused on 2 riders for maybe 3 minutes, race is over. Next. And you just keep doing that all day. So it would be kind of interesting to see how the audience picks up on this intensity.
Right. Right. What kind of financial backing you have behind you with this idea?
Up to now, guess what, guys? My pocket.
Ouch.
I've been there, done that.
You know what? It's incredible how, look, it's not a lot of money, quite honestly.
Right.
I mean, you can't take any good risk without having some kind of an investment.
Right.
But I have pinched my pennies, and I've gotten a lot of super, super people. And this brings up another subject of how important it is to pull any grand scheme. You need really nice, good people, and you got to treat people really, really well. You can't BS. You can't BS anybody. Maybe on the track when you're racing against someone, that's a different story. That's a completely different story. But to pull off an event like this, you need a lot of volunteers. Up to now, I've had awesome volunteers help me, and I've been able to land some really good camera people, and by the way, and this is where I think Ted was talking about his editing skills or lack thereof.
Yeah, a little both.
Or how much he loves it.
You never love it, but you do it.
Editing doesn't come cheap, so no. I learned how to do it, and that's one of the things that you got to do. Maybe I'm not the best, that's for sure, but you got to do some stuff. I've edited well enough to present the idea to important people that will help me pull this off.
There you go.
So we're looking at maybe sometime in September. Is that what you anticipate?
Yeah, that's right.
And what kind of commercial affiliation with this might be involved with Motorcycle Wars?
So you mean what kind of people would find it user friendly for marketing their brands?
Well, is it going to be an electronic stream, or will it be through a network that might be like
I see.
Say Speed TV kind of thing, or
distribution?
Yeah.
The idea is to produce high quality with very skilled supervision above my level of skill set. So someone is going to be supervising my edits so that it is produced in such a way that the big broadcasters would find interest in it. So here's the thing. We're doing this. We could certainly broadcast it as a web series, and that was one of the things that I've actually done with it. But the goal is to present it to a larger mass of people, to get people that normally wouldn't come see a motorcycle race, for example, at Pensacola, the Oval. I think Jim alluded to last time we spoke that at times you can carve out the center of the track, or maybe that was Ted who was talking about that, to turn it into turn it into not a complete oval. You use the oval for sure, but you want to turn it a little bit into a road circuit for the bikes to go around.
Yeah, they do it for a race we have in January every year called the Sweat Hog Grand Prix, and it's a road course.
It's different, I gotta tell you.
Right.
People aren't ever used to turning right. Have to turn right all of a sudden. It gets a little different.
Yes. So let's try something new. Maybe one of these events and bring out spectators. You make it interesting for spectators. We might gain a new group of people that fall in love with not only the short track style of racing, but maybe even motorcycles.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you've got a lot of motorcycle enthusiasts around here because of the fact that it's so warm down here. People ride all the time. I mean, it's even in the wintertime, people ride a lot. And if you could get those guys, even like the bikers and the crotch rocket guys and people excited about it, they'd probably come out and, you could maybe add like a burnout competition or something to keep those guys. I mean, not on your TV part, but like part of the event would be like, for the guys to do burnouts or trick riding, stuff like that. Right. That would bring interest in, and then you could have your show, and then it would be, you know what I mean? I think there's different things you can do to attract people, as well as your plan, which I like. I think it's a cool idea. It reminds me of the show Pinks, that drag racing show, where they would line people up and race, and they'd come down to the final two, and then they would make a decision on, well, you give me a car length, or you got to turn your nitrous bottle off, or you got to do the give and take, like you said, the professional versus the amateur.
Yes, you nailed it, Jim. Hey, you know what? I don't mind borrowing some great ideas at work. There's a little bit of, a little bit from everything to make a new idea. And Pinks was certainly a really cool show. And the burnouts, man, that's huge. Whether it's Harley Davidsons or the crotch rockets, a burnout is always amazing. I've got footage of burnouts like crazy. Everyone loves the burnout, the last few millimeters of their tires.
Right down to nothing.
Until they pop. Yeah, I did that. I used to do that in high school, that truck I had. I'd do burnouts like pop a right rear tire, and then had to put my spare on to get home. My dad always wondered how that happened. I don't know, Dad. A tire went out.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty excited about what's coming up from Motorcycle Wars. This is Jerry DeLuca, the executive producer, and I would assume the founder of Motorcycle Wars and what we know about it. And I can't tell you enough, Jerry, about the excitement that I feel about witnessing some of this competition. And all of us here at the studio wish you all the luck in the world, and we're going to be behind you. We'll support you any way we can. We appreciate your time to take out to be with us, and we look for something in the news we can pass on in the next few months with some updates and whatever we can do. We appreciate that.
Help you out.
Yeah, we'll help you any way we can.
Yeah, thank you so much. We will stay in contact for sure.
Definitely.
And now it's time for Jim's impressions.
No, we'll do that. I'll do them for you some other time. I'm not going to do them on the air because
All right.
we'll do a segment. But man, it's been really good talking to you. And if there's anything we can do to help you, I mean, like I said, this is a cool concept. Yeah. We like the idea.
Yeah.
And thank you for
staying in contact.
And thank you for thinking about us. We do appreciate it.
Yes, it is reciprocal.
No problem.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We will stay in touch, and thank you to all the listeners for this, and for Jerry DeLuca, the executive producer. Motorcycle Wars coming up, and a TV show series coming up. I look forward to it. I can't wait.
Yep, good deal.
Coming to a TV near you.
That's right. That's right.
So thank you very much. I appreciate everybody involved. It's always a pleasure to get with you guys and talk short track racing.
Oh, yeah.
Now we've included 2 wheels, which is not a big deal to me. It's, racing's racing to us. We are 3 short track guys.
That's right.
So thanks for everybody listening, and thank you for your support. Your support is our motivation, and we will talk to you next week.
And
guys, we cannot leave without...
1, 2, 3. Let's go,
Brandon. Good night, everybody.